Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Luna's journey on the show had been a mix of fire and grace. She was introduced as a bright-eyed intern at Forrester Creations, a fashion firm full of glitz and secrets. Her personality was a patchwork of contradictions, fiercely autonomous yet yearning for connection, bold yet vulnerable. Fans fell in love with her quick wit and ability to negotiate the harsh world of high fashion while maintaining an air of innocence. Lisa had enjoyed performing her, especially as Luna's lines felt like an extension of her own voice and dreams. But now the writers had determined that Luna's story would end tragically, a plot twist that Lisa felt betrayed by. She had fought for Luna, debated in script meetings, and urged for a different outcome. But the decision had been made. Luna Nozawa would die, forcing Lisa to say goodbye to the role that defined her. The flat was quiet save for the gentle patter of rain on the windows. Lisa slumped into the couch, her phone humming with notifications she couldn't bear to read. Before the show ever aired, social media was ablaze with speculation, with fans mourning Luna's fate. Why would they kill her? One tweet read, "Luna deserved better," another said. Lisa's eyes hurt as she scanned through the messages, each one a reminder of the connection she'd made with her audience. She had always known that acting was an ephemeral craft, a dance of fleeting moments, but this seemed different. This felt like losing a piece of her soul. She recalled the day she had landed the job. It was a sweltering afternoon in Los Angeles, and she'd been auditioning for months, surviving on waitress tips and pure determination. When her agent called to tell her the news, she burst into tears of relief and delight. The Bold and the Beautiful has left an indelible mark on American television. Being a part of it meant entering a world full with drama and possibilities. Lisa had poured herself into the part, spending hours researching Luna's past and perfecting nuances in her portrayal to make the character appear authentic. She had stayed late on set, honing scenes and developing friendships with the actors and crew. They were her family, or as close to one as she'd ever had. Luna's arc has been a roller coaster. She began as a background player, getting coffee and delivering lines that only touched the surface of her abilities. However, Lisa's persistence drew the attention of the writers, and Luna was soon given her own plot. She became embroiled in a love triangle, her heart divided between two men who symbolized different futures. One, a charming designer with a wild bent, and the other, a dependable, kind-hearted businessman who saw her potential. The fans ate it up, inundating Lisa's email with remarks suggesting who Luna should choose. However, Luna was defined by more than just her romance. She had ambition, a need to prove herself in a world that frequently dismissed her as just an intern. She clashed with the Forrester family, stood her ground in boardroom battles, and carved out a niche for herself in a story crammed with larger-than-life characters. Lisa had poured her personal problems into Luna. She, like her character, had grown up feeling like an outsider, navigating a world that did not always accommodate her. Lisa's parents were both immigrants. Her mother was from Japan, and her father was from a little Midwest town. Their love story was one of resistance, a union that defied cultural norms and familial objections. Lisa inherited their perseverance, calm strength, and feeling of displacement. Playing Luna allowed her to express her duality, the need to belong and the drive to stand out. Every scenario felt like an opportunity to rewrite her own story, to carve out a space in a universe that was frequently too huge and merciless. But suddenly that space was getting smaller. The writers had decided that Luna's journey would end in a car accident, a shocking, senseless tragedy that would leave fans reeling. Lisa read the script with a heavy heart, the words blurring on the page as she pictured Luna's last moments. It was not simply the character's death that hurt, it was the loss of everything Luna represented. She was a beacon for viewers who saw themselves in her trials and successes. Lisa had received messages from supporters, including young women, people of color, and dreamers who viewed Luna as proof that they too could overcome adversity. Her story's sudden ending felt like a betrayal of that hope. The days before her final scene were a blur. The set, once a source of laughter and friendship, seemed heavy with unspoken farewells. Her co-stars hugged her even harder, their eyes filled with mutual anguish. The director, a gruff veteran who rarely showed emotion, called her aside to tell her she'd been a damn good Luna. Lisa tried to concentrate on the work, to immerse herself in the art, but every line felt like a goodbye. When the cameras rolled for her final moment, she stood beneath the bright lights, her heart hammering as she said Luna's final words, "I'm no longer terrified. I'm ready." The words were intended for the man she loved, but they felt more like a message to herself, a plea to find courage in the unknown. When the director yelled cut, the entire set erupted in cheers. Lisa burst into tears as the crew surrounded her, hands on her shoulders, voices filled with appreciation and sorrow. She knew soap operas thrived on drama and the shock of unexpected exits, but this felt too genuine, too raw. She wasn't just abandoning a role, she was leaving a part of herself behind. Lisa returned to her flat and glanced at the script on her coffee table, its pages worn from repeated readings. She wanted to be angry at the writers, the industry, and the fleeting nature of celebrity, but all she felt was sadness. She thought about her parents, who had made so many sacrifices to give her this opportunity. She thought of the fans, whose support had gotten her through the toughest times. She remembered Luna, whose light had burnt so brightly only to be quenched too quickly. The rain had ceased, and the city glistened under a hesitant moon. Lisa opened her laptop and began typing, expressing her anguish via words. She wrote of Luna's courage, weaknesses, and unwavering spirit. She wrote about the moments that defined her, late-night conversations with her on-screen best friend, quiet successes in the design room, and the way she looked at the guy she loved, knowing she'd never be really with him. It wasn't a script or a scene. It was a eulogy, a tribute to the character who had transformed her life. As the hours passed, the weight in her chest lifted, giving way to a delicate sense of purpose. Lisa's narrative was not coming to a conclusion, whereas Luna's was. She'd take Luna with her in her decisions, the roles she battled for, and the stories she shared. The industry was ruthless, a machine that devoured ambitions and spit them out, but Lisa was no stranger to conflict. She would audition again, be rejected again, and keep going, because this is what Luna would have done. In the days that followed, Lisa relied on her friends, family, and her own strength. She went for lengthy walks through the city, letting the rhythm of her steps drown out the sound of doubt. She met with her agency to discuss new projects and opportunities. There were tryouts on the horizon, positions that would push her in ways Luna never did. She wasn't ready to let go of her grief just yet, but she was ready to move forward. The show aired a week later, and the internet went crazy with reactions. Fans mourned Luna, with popular hashtags such as #JusticeForLuna and #SaveLuna. Lisa received their messages, her heart full of thanks. She tweeted a simple thank you on social media, along with a photo of herself in character, smiling through the agony. Luna was a gift, she explained. Thank you for loving her as much as I did. In quiet moments, when the world felt too heavy, Lisa returned to her balcony, gazing out at the city that had formed her. She remembered Luna's final words, "I'm not afraid anymore." They weren't totally true. Fear remained, a shadow at the border of every dream. But Lisa was learning to carry it, to let it propel her rather than hold her back. Luna's story had come to an end, but hers had only just begun, a blank page awaiting new words, places, and struggles. So she stepped back inside, locked the balcony door, and resumed writing. She arrived under brilliant lighting. Every day, she went on a set that glowed with promise, the wide corridors of studios, cameras poised, the hum of the workers, the silence before a shot. From the spark of ambition in her eyes to the quiet confidence of genius waiting to be discovered. She was young. She was hopeful. She was a rising talent who deserved her moment. That moment arrived. The applause. The envelope opened. Her name has been called. She rose from her seat, the spotlight warm on her skin. and her face was full with unshed tears. She clutched an Emmy in her hands, representing years of hard work, concessions, nights away from home, rehearsals, and the battle to become someone worth attention. Her parents watched proudly from the audience. She took off right then.
She'd arrived.
But then, since life has a way of stacking delight and grief, she was confronted with an unavoidable truth. Sometimes the world asks you to leave the stage just as you have conquered it. She had heard that she would be leaving the show, following the victory and the prize. The story she helped build would continue without her. A behind-the-scenes finale. She sensed a last act but couldn't compose it. So she walks the vacant corridor after rap day. The lights are off.
Props are stacked.
The echoes of her voice from practice remain like ghosts. She recalls the first day she went on set, nervous, enthusiastic, a little girl at heart, and the last day she will stand beneath those lights, carrying the weight of her departure. Her smile for the cameras is now from another age. Her chair, which was formerly positioned at the cast table, is now unoccupied. She still carries her Emmy, but there is silence in the room. The trophy glints, but she wonders how much this victory cost. She offered a portion of herself, including long days, restless nights, and bits of her soul. She gave the characters her murmurs, screams, and tears. She created something that people watched and enjoyed. Nevertheless, she must walk away. Walking away feels like betrayal. To the character she adored, the fans who applauded, and herself. She wonders if they would remember her smile or only the exit. Whether people will praise her for the voyage or forget the person behind the act. She wonders if leaving will feel like a failure, despite the fact that it couldn't be more the opposite. Choosing to quit after triumph is a paradox. Victory and farewell. In the taxi ride home, or hotel hallway, or quiet driveway, she glances at the Emmy that someone has photographed. She sees in her reflection the shadow of the person she was before fame and the award. The individual is still there, just more knowledgeable. She sits quietly, shedding tears. This isn't quite the dream she expected. She did, indeed, dream of success. But she didn't really imagine the pain of leaving. She makes a pledge to herself to remember the best bits. Warm applause. She made buddies. The scenes that made her heart pound and her voice crack. She will recall the rush of cameras and the silence of anticipation for action. She will recall being noticed for a time. She will carry that forward. But she will not avoid the sadness of the closing door. The world will move forward. The show will continue without her. The character will disappear or be written out. Newcomers will step in. The cameras will still be rolling. And she will begin a new chapter. But not yet. Not until she has mourned this one. Not until she lets the silence settle into her chest and the goodbye linger. There is dignity in departure. It takes bravery to walk away when the lights are at their brightest.
She understands that.
However, the weight of what might have been bears at her ribs. What if the show had allowed her more time? What if the scripts had given her deeper arcs? What if the audience adored her enough to campaign for her return? Those what-ifs float like sluggish dust motes through the air. She considers the folks she will meet from here. New sets. New stories. New scripts. But she also wonders about the people she's leaving behind, colleagues, castmates, and crew members who have become surrogate families. Laughter in between takes. Inside jokes. Nervousness before a big scene. The relief after it was over. And all of that will remain behind. In the silent hotel room late at night, she sits on the bed's edge. She opens the window slightly. The city's lights flicker. She clutches the Emmy on her lap. She lets herself cry without shame. Because even in triumph, there can be grief. Because even a realized dream might be a door that shuts. Because it is acceptable to mourn the loss of something you love. She recalls the youthful actor she once was. The girl who dared to dream. She whispers, "I did it. I deserved it. I made them watch me. I reminded the world that I existed. And yet, I still have to let go." Being done brings a peculiar sense of grief. Being finished. Knowing that you have given your all and must now walk away. But she ultimately gets up. She places the Emmy on the dresser, close to the unopened suitcase. She selects a snapshot from the night of the award.
Smiling.
The camera flashes. Her parents are beaming. That moment of pure illumination. She draws a big breath. She closes her suitcase. She turns the lamp off. And she leaves that small part of her life that will no longer be hers. Walking into the lobby, she feels the world's eyes on her, but she feels lighter because the part of the story that bound her is over. And heavier because the weight of goodbye is tangible. She attempts to imagine the future. A new stage. New role. There is a new dawn. But tonight she allows herself to be sad. She allows the emptiness. She allows the farewell. In the silence of her car's departure, she looks back at the studio lot one last time through the rear window. The lights are off.
Silent.
A chapter has closed. She wiped a tear. She says to the night, "Thank you." She breathed, punched the throttle, and drove away from the spotlights. That departure contains grace. There is optimism in that departing. Because when one show ends, another begins, but you never forget how you got there. And she will not forget. She'll bear the pain, the victory, the loss. All of it. Because this is the narrative of a dream realized and a door closed. And so she drives along the nighttime road, Emmy in hand, heart full of memories, ready for the next scene. As she drives away from the studio lot, the city lights blur by, reflecting a mix of triumph and sadness in her eyes. However, this is not the conclusion of her story. Rather, it marks a fresh beginning. Every struggle she's overcome, every line she's spoken, and every tear she's shed on set has prepared her for what lies ahead. Imagine yourself in her shoes for a moment. The limelight fades, the acclaim dies down, and you're left with a representation of everything you've accomplished. How would you feel? What will you do next? Think about that as we travel with her outside the set. Because stories like this don't just stop with an award. They leave an imprint on our hearts, telling us that even when we say goodbye to something we care about, there's always a new chapter to begin. If you've ever chased a dream, faced an ending, or had to leave anything behind, click the like button to show you're not alone. And be sure to subscribe because we'll be following her narrative, sharing every accomplishment, hardship, and moment of bravery she faces next. Do not miss the upcoming chapters. Comment below. What would you do if you were walking away immediately after your greatest victory?